Hi dear students, welcome to Department of Chemistry, KTHM College Nasik. So student, in our previous lecture we started our discussion about the second thermal technique, DTA, differential thermal analysis. We discuss about the definition and principle as well as the instrumentation of a DTA. The technique in which the temperature difference between the sample and the reference material is monitored as a function of a time or temperature is known as a differential thermal analysis. The most important thing is that here both the sample as well as the reference material is heated with a constant rate, with equal rate, and the temperature difference is recorded. We also discuss about the principle of a DTA. The important thing is that in an endothermic process, we will get a downward curve, and in an exothermic process, we will get a upward curve. Because in an endothermic process, the temperature of the sample is less than the temperature of the reference, and therefore the delta T becomes a -1. In an exothermic process, the temperature of the sample is higher than the temperature of the reference material, and therefore change in temperature, that is the delta T, is positive, and we will get a corresponding DTA curve with a positive attitude, means the upward curve we will get over here. As a part of a discussion in this lecture, we will discuss about the DTA curve. What will be the output after analysis by using a DTA instrument? As far as our instrumental discussion, we know that the recorder used in a DTA is a strip chart recorder. We will get up to output in the form of curve, or you can say the plot. So today we will discuss about the DTA curve. DTA curve. First of all, we will draw the curve of a temperature versus a time, or you can say the temperature versus progress. Suppose here we plot a temperature, and this is your time axis. We are heating the sample as well as the reference simultaneously. Obviously, our sample material is thermally less stable in comparison with the reference one. Reference material is stable at higher temperature also. So upon heating, the temperature of the reference material increases progressively. Suppose this is your heating rate or temperature. You can say the temperature of the furnace. This is your temperature of furnace, because we are increasing the temperature of furnace progressively. So we will get a straight line over here. Simultaneously, reference material is also thermally stable. Along with the temperature of the furnace, the temperature of the reference material also increases progressively. So suppose it will be the temperature of your reference material, dotted line. This is the temperature of a reference. And now third curve which we have to draw over here is the temperature variation of the sample with respect to time. So you can say that up to certain limit of temperature, the sample is stable with the temperature, and afterward what happens? There is a decrease in temperature. Again it will goes to constant. Again it may increases. Again may go to the constant. So this is nothing but the temperature variation of a sample. Or you can say the analyte. What happened over here? This is the temperature of a reference, and this is the temperature of sample. So this is the point where the temperature of sample does not increase linearly, because at that point whatever the heat provided to the sample is utilized to do certain process. Obviously, very first process for the solid upon heating is the melting. So you can say that this is the melting point of a sample. This is the melting point of sample. After completion of the melting process, the temperature again rises progressively along with the reference material. Beyond that, some other processes may take place. For example, oxidation may take place. And if oxidation takes place, you know that oxidation process, it is one of the chemical process which is an exothermic. So once the exothermic process is taking place, the temperature of the sample increases in comparison with the reference. So it will give us a delta H positive, the delta T positive. So upward peak will be obtained over here. So it will be the peak. So you can say that this is the temperature of oxidation. Oxidation temperature. So you got it? So these are nothing but the comparative changes in temperatures upon a simultaneous heating with respect to time. We can convert this curve or this data in another format also. That is, we have to plot a change in temperature with respect to time. So if we plot a delta T over here, difference in temperature, it will be your time. We will take a middle of the portion. Suppose that this is the axis where the temperature difference is a 0, just like in this portion, the temperature difference is a 0. All these have a same value, but still as a part of a distinguishing, we just drawn it upward and below. This is a 0 temperature difference, you can say. Initially what happened? Temperature difference is a constant one. Afterward, temperature difference is a lower one. Again constant. Then increases. Then decreases. And so on. Got it? You can skip that part. So what is this? Downward peak is nothing but the endothermic process. And this is the upward peak, it means that exothermic process. This is your exothermic process. We can go through the particular example also. Suppose if we took an example of a polymeric material, if we wish to study the DTA of a polymeric material, what will be the nature of a DTA curve? In case of polymeric material, suppose this is the delta T. Sorry, we will draw in between, middle. What happened? Up to the certain limit, temperature difference becomes a constant one. So this is a constant one. After that, it decreases a little bit. And then increases. You will get a corresponding curve over here. After that, again decreases. In this case. So what is this? This is nothing but we call it as a TG, glass transition temperature. This is the temperature at which the polymeric material is converted into the rubbery material. Rubbery material means what? Which have an elasticity, elastomers you can say. stretchable, smooth material. So this is your glass at transition temperature. After that, what happened? Again, if we increase the heat, so this is your temperature. Again, if we increase the heat, what happens? Crystallization takes place. And crystallization is an exothermic process. In an exothermic, we will get an upward curve. So this is your crystallization. Crystallization of polymeric material. Again, still we are heating the material. A time is reached when the polymer start to melt, and melting point is an endothermic process. Endothermic process gives a downward curve. So this is your melting point, you can say. If we again further heat it, upward curve, this is your oxidation. Exothermic process. And if we again further heat, it will start to decompose. This is the decomposition temperature. And this is the corresponding variation in a delta T with respect to temperature. It was just an ideal case of a polymeric material. You just note this point by screenshot. We will proceed our discussion with example. Okay, we will discuss the example of calcium oxalate, CaC2O4 H2O, CaC2O4 H2O. For example, first example, DTA curve of calcium oxalate. First of all, we will write the reactions and then we'll draw the DTA curve. Our first reaction is that water of hydration will be lost, dehydration will be there. It is an endothermic process and it takes place around 200 degrees Celsius. So our first reaction is that CaC2O4 H2O upon heating around 200 degrees Celsius loses this water of crystallization and you will get CaC2O4 plus H2O. First reaction. In the second reaction, this CaC2O4 upon further heating around the 500 degrees Celsius, it gives a corresponding calcium carbonate plus CO2. We should balance it. CaC2O4. Now in the third case, third reaction, CaCO3 upon further heating decomposes. It took around a 900 degrees Celsius temperature. We will get a calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. So these are the three important reactions. If you draw the change in temperature with respect to temperature, suppose this is your 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800 and 900. Suppose this is the point at which change in temperature is a 0. So in the first case, loss of water is there, dehydration is there, endothermic process around 200. So initially it becomes a constant one, and around 200 it gives us such a type of peak, and then again constant. Around 500 degrees Celsius, decomposition is there, loss of carbon monoxide is there, burning of a carbon monoxide is there, oxidation is there, exothermic process. So around 500 we will get a exothermic peak over here. After that again at around 900 Kelvin, degrees Celsius temperature, decarboxylation and further decomposition will be there. This is in presence of air. In an air, in the second case, carbon monoxide form undergoes a oxidation. We will call it as an burning. So this is a peak due to the loss of water molecule, and this is due to the decarboxylation. And in between that, we will get one small peak, and this peak is corresponding to the burning of carbon monoxide. If we perform the corresponding analysis in carbon dioxide atmosphere, furnace atmosphere, we are talking about that. We will discuss about the atmospheric conditions and their influences on a DTA curve afterward. If we perform the same curve in an CO2 atmosphere, the corresponding peaks will be in this way. The two peaks will remain as it is in their positions. Only difference will be in middle peak, because in an air, carbon monoxide burns, oxidizes, so it will give a exothermic peak. But in an CO2 atmosphere, there is no burning, so we will get a downward curve corresponding. So it was the first example, that is the calcium oxalate. In the same way, we can discuss about the second example. We can take the second example of copper sulfate pentahydrate. Second one, DTA curve of copper sulfate pentahydrate. As like previous example, first of all we will discuss the reactions and then we'll draw the DTA curve. What happened in the first case? Loss of two water molecule. Our first reaction is that CuSO4 5H2O around 200 degrees Celsius loses a water, and we will get CuSO4 thrice H2O, loss of twice water molecule. Among the rest of the three water molecules in the second step, near about the same temperature, means around 200 degrees Celsius, we will get CuSO4 H2O plus twice H2O in the form of water vapors. Second case, we get the formation of a copper sulfate monohydrate. And in the third case, around 300 degrees Celsius, rest of the water molecule will be lost. And we will get copper sulfate, anhydrous copper sulfate. This anhydrous copper sulfate, again further heating, around 900 degrees Celsius, gets decomposed to give CuO plus SO3. This CuO again, upon heating 2 moles at higher temperature, we will get a Cu2O plus oxygen in this way. So these are the corresponding reactions. Now we can draw the DTA curve. Suppose this is 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800 and 900. This is your delta T. According to the temperature range, initially around 200, you will get such type of broad peaks. Why we are getting a broad peak over here? In this case also we got a broad peak, sometimes sharp peak. Why it happens so? We will discuss about that later on. Means in our next session we have to discuss about that. Right now you just concentrate over the temperature range, upward, downward directions, exothermicity, endothermicity, etc. etc. So again around 300 you will get one more peak over here. It will be the scenario of DTA curve. What happened over here? It will be the A, it will be the B, it will be the C. These are the 3 peaks corresponding to the first 3 reactions. And afterward, a decomposition is there. Around 900 degrees Celsius temperature. So it was an account about the DTA curve. Now what information we are getting from the DTA curve? The most important thing is that the shape and size of the peak gives an information about the nature of a sample. The shape and size gives the nature of sample. The sharp endothermic peak indicate the phase change. The sharp endothermic peak gives the phase change. First one, sharp endothermic peak. Gives phase change, like solid to liquid, liquid to gas, gas to again solid. In this way, phase changes are there. If we got a sharp endothermic peak, it is corresponding to the phase change. For example, during the melting, we will get a sharp downward peak because it is an endothermic. Got it? Second thing, the dehydration gives a broad endothermic peak. For example, this is an dehydration, so we got a broad endothermic peak. This is also dehydration, we got a broad endothermic peak. This is also broad endothermic peak. So the second important information which we are getting from DTA, the broad endothermic peak gives for dehydration. Next one, if some chemical reactions are there, for example oxidation, we discussed in our previous example, the chemical reaction which is an exothermic will give a broad exothermic peak. So the third one, chemical reaction gives exothermic peak. For example, oxidative reactions are there, some reductive reactions are there, some bond formations are there, because we know that as a part of a simple phenomenon of chemical reactions, bond breaking is an endothermic, bond making is an exothermic process. So students, it was an account about the DTA curve. Now in this lecture we will stop over here. In our next lecture we will discuss about the factors affecting on a DTA curve, because a number of influencing factors are there. We will discuss in detail about the factors affecting on DTA curve. Thank you very much.